Hi friends and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello. My name's George Agenbar and I'm a UK music producer. Today's video is all about high frequency loss and general hearing loss, and how this can be a problem to those of us doing studio work. So if you want to learn a bit more about this, then make sure you stay tuned and hit the subscribe button for new videos every Wednesday. And things will never be the same when I hear your name since you kissed me in the rain. Hearing is a very complex thing. Very simply put, our ears have little hairs in them, and these hairs transform sound waves into electrical signals that our brain can process as sound. And for most of the time, this works great. But there is one really big problem we have with them. These little hairs in our ears don't regenerate. Once they're damaged, they're gone. Just like the hairs on our head. They can't heal themselves. And so, once these hairs are damaged, we begin to lose our hearing to some degree. Hearing loss is a very big and widespread problem. About a third of adults aged 65 to 70 suffer from it, and about half of adults aged over 75. Now, there are two main types of hearing loss: age-related and noise-related. Age-related hearing loss is somewhat of a mystery. No one's really definitely sure why it happens. It is thought that as we age, perhaps there are some changes that happen to our inner ears that causes this hearing loss. Other factors that could possibly cause it could be your family history, whether you smoke or not, whether you have exposure to loud noises a lot, certain medical treatments. But as I said, no one's really sure. Noise-related hearing loss, as you would expect, is caused by exposure to loud noises. Explosions, heavy machinery, loud bands when you're at concerts. And this prolonged exposure begins to cause damage to those little hairs in our ear, which causes the hearing loss. The most common ways that people begin to lose their hearing is by losing the ability to hear the higher frequencies. And this can be a problem when you're mixing, mastering, or even just making music. By the age of 40, you can struggle to hear frequencies over 15 kilohertz. And by the age of 50, you can even struggle to hear anything above 12 kilohertz. But is this too much of a problem? Well, we'll discuss that later on. But first, let's try to hear the information that you lose as you begin to lose your higher frequencies. So this is a song that I wrote called Miss You Like Crazy. And I've tried to isolate all those frequencies that you may lose as you begin to age. I've used some EQ to isolate the frequencies over roughly 15 kilohertz, and this is the information. If you do suffer from some degree of high frequency hearing loss, I've also pitched this information down, so hopefully you'll be able to hear it a bit better. So that's the information that you lose as you begin to lose your ability to hear higher frequencies. In all honesty, it's not a lot of timbral and tonal content. It's mainly just kind of the very tops of cymbals and percussion and things like that. Now, does this really make a difference to the mix? Well, in my opinion, I think it does. So let's have a listen to the mix with and without the 15 kilohertz and above frequencies. I do. Did you think that you broke my heart? Did you think you tore me right apart? You never really had me from the start. I do. Did you think that you broke my heart? Did you think you tore me right apart? You never really had me from the start. To me, the song without the frequencies above 15 kilohertz just doesn't sound as energetic or sparkly as the one with those frequencies. And now I'll admit it is a subtle change, but personally I do think it does make a difference. Okay, so I made this example after I finished filming the video, but I wanted to show the real difference this 15 kilohertz and above information makes. And I figured that actually in my example of the track with and without this information, would have been really difficult for people to hear that are suffering from this high frequency loss. So I've decided to show it using sine waves. I'm going to play 3 sine waves, each separately, adding one on top of the other, at 3 different frequencies. The first being slightly lower frequencies, and the second being slightly higher frequencies. And hopefully being able to hear and determine each separate wave as they get turned on one by one will prove that 15 kHz and above and losing this information can make a difference to the music. So actually after these 3 sine waves, in the first example you should have been able to hear the 3 separate waves, but in the second, some people may have only been able to hear the 2, and that's because the sine wave pitched at 17 kHz is now unfortunately out of their hearing range. So if you have suffered or do suffer from this high frequency loss, what can you do to make sure it doesn't affect your mixes? Well, for people with a lot of experience, they can really rely on that. They can fall back on it because they have that wealth of knowledge. However, I do appreciate that not everyone has that, and you can't expect everyone to. And so what you can do is use frequency analyzers. I'd recommend analysing the frequency on your reference track, a mix that you know is really, really good and really well balanced. And then compare it to your mix and see whether the high frequencies are roughly at the same level. Now, I'm not saying that this is a surefire way to make sure your mixes are always perfect, but I think that if you do suffer hearing these higher frequencies, it will give you a pretty good idea of where your mixes are compared to other mixes. Is there anything we can do about hearing loss? How can we make sure we can prevent it so that it doesn't happen to us? Well, unfortunately, there is no prevention for age-related hearing loss. However, we can prevent noise-related hearing loss. We just have to make sure that we don't expose ourselves to prolonged amounts of loud noises. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't go to concerts every week or twice a week or however much you want. Not at all. You just have to be sensible about it. Bring earplugs with you. There are some great ones out there with attenuating filters. That means the sound levels are slightly lower, so they're not going to damage your hearing, but you can still hear everything crystal clearly. It doesn't ruin the experience for you. All in all, hearing loss isn't something to lose sleep about. You know, you can be sensible and make sure you wear earplugs and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, we can't prevent age-related hearing loss, so it could happen to any one of us, no matter how careful we are. I would say though that it's important to know what frequencies we can and can't hear for our mixes, because it just lets us know what frequency ranges to be careful of and just to double check. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Let me know what you thought in the comments below and if there are any other videos you'd like to see in the future. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I'll see you again soon.